Hi everybody on Facebook and good morning from Banska Bystrica. We are live again and we're not going to let you alone.
So we've done it again with the podcast. We were like quiet for a couple of seconds.
Yes, we were.
While we fixed things.
Yes.
That's just not
but
cool.
You always have to do that. You always have to fix things because we don't have a technician and he is the technician and he is fixing everything up from the beginning.
Not only am I fixing everything, I'm also breaking everything at the same time.
It's also breaking everything, but then he makes everything work eventually. It might take hours and a lot of sweat and a little bit of swearing. Okay, a lot of swearing.
Swearing? I never swear.
I swear, I never swear.
That would be like a cool poem title. I swear I never swear, even when I fall down the stair.
One of them.
What?
One stair.
Did I say stair instead of stairs?
Yes. Is that even? Oh, you mean stair like a look?
No, you can't
fall down your stair. I just fell down your stair. That's
poetic. It could be a romantic thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. I just broke my heart falling down your stair.
No, not said like not. You just.
Did it destroy your pulse?
More like shop assistant. You know, it's you ask where some product is, and
was it supposed to sigh?
They ram a chainsaw down your throat.
Was it supposed to sigh? Like this.
Let's do everything in rhymes today.
Are you crazy?
She tried to sigh. I tried to cry. I don't know why.
Because you didn't have a coffee this morning, perhaps?
And then she swallowed a fly.
No, I didn't.
And choked. How do I get to the word die from that?
And died.
No, died. That's died. That's not die. That's died. Died. And not died as in changed colour, but
okay.
Died as in approached death.
Approached death. I didn't completely get there, but I approached it, right?
We are all approaching the end of our time.
This is supposed to be a morning optimistic thing. And you start talking about
I'm
death.
really confused. Look, Facebook has no timer. Did you check the audio?
No.
What have you been doing?
What for? I've been sharing.
What have you been doing for the last 5 minutes?
I've been sharing. I don't know if don't have my thing on, so listen.
Okay, that's it.
Okay,
so it is. The audio is going through there. Right. I'm confused. The podcast is saying we've been podcasting for 5 minutes.
We have. Who's there? Is that me?
Facebook.
Is that me watching?
That's you.
I'm watching my own live video on Facebook. Isn't that a bit narcissistic?
Lean over a bit. There you go. Right. Okay. So, yeah, podcasting for 5, Facebooking for 4, and YouTubing for 3. So,
good.
So there we go. What are we doing here this morning? Okay, my whole morning has not quite worked out according to plan. Oh, that thing about, needing to get extra sleep. I'm kind of pretty much convinced that people don't need any more than 5 hours sleep. Because once you get up and you get started doing something, it's okay, right?
It is okay.
It's just like getting that initial 10-15 minutes of getting up and getting focused is hard unless you're jumping in a cold shower, or might be easier if someone brings you a cup of coffee or something like that. So
there are studies that people who sleep less than 6 hours a day die younger, but let's just not talk about that today, okay?
How do they know that?
I imagine they did statistics.
You can't interview people once they're dead.
I don't know. Maybe they asked them before maybe they went to hospitals and asked people in hospitals how long they used to sleep when they were young or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but you don't know they're going to die, right? And if they are going to die, I mean,
well, you just wait and see. I don't know.
Just, you know.
Anyway, they say that, you know, when you've got lack of sleep, you generally
the statistics are kind of crazy, because it could be that
can fix itself.
It could be that, you know, if you only get 5 hours sleep at night, you're more likely to fall off a ladder or something, right? And that would be just.
If I get less than 6 hours of sleep at night, my temper is shorter. Can you say that? Can you have a short temper?
Which would still be infinite, really.
My patience is thinner, and
can you have thick patience?
I'm forgetful. Well, when your patience wears thin, right? When your patience wears thin, it just gets thinner and thinner, right? So I usually have a very thick patience, but if I don't have enough sleep, it's quite thin. And yes, and I tend to forget things. Have you noticed?
That you tend to forget things?
Yes, when I don't have enough sleep. And remember, I haven't had enough sleep for about 8 years now, so.
You forget things?
Yes, I forget things more.
If I wrote it down and taped it to your forehead, you would still forget it?
Yes.
It wouldn't make any difference at all. You just ignore the fact that it was taped there, wouldn't you?
Yes. I would forget something taped to my head, and I would just go outside with it and have.
Staped. Is that like a cross between stapled and taped?
People would just look at me, and they would go, and I would be like, "What?"
Here's a little story, right? When I lived in London, I used to travel on the tube, and good morning, the guy who used to be the barman in Club 77. Is
that his name?
Well, it's his name. He's written his name in Russian, and I can't read Azbuka.
So,
So.
And I can't see who that is.
And he doesn't speak English either, so I don't know why he's watching this. But he was a very
wait.
I'll
come
nice man.
up with something in Russian. Wait.
Zdravuyutye. Is that a word?
No.
Sounds Russian. Comrade.
You could say. I don't know. I forgot everything.
How do you say good morning in Russian?
I have no idea.
You don't know how to say good morning in Russian?
No idea. I knew it.
Dobrodrustvo.
Right.
That means adventure.
Yes.
Yeah. But it could be good morning, because maybe living in Russia is an adventure.
Well, no, actually, because društvo is what you called farms, state-owned farms during socialism.
You still call them that now. It's still called the društvo, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go. So dobrodruštvo is basically a
good farm.
Good farm.
Good farm. I'm going off for a good farm.
Yeah. That's right.
The word adventure means good farm. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay, let's go. My story. The underground, the tube in London, right? You know, the underground train system thing, right?
Yes.
A lot of crazy people travel on the underground.
No.
You've seen them.
Yes.
Right. You know, people with
London Underground
men with handbags and women walking around scratching their crotch, and there's a lot of weird people there. Right. There's this.
I was in a different underground than you were.
I was always taking the scratchy crotchy line. Otherwise known as the Northern Line. Right.
I took the Polish line.
There's no Polish line.
There's a Polish line, a line that's full of Polish people.
Yeah, it must be a new one.
It's the one that takes you to Tooting. Seriously.
You tell me there's a place in London called Tooting. I'm not aware of that.
There's also... Wait, no, we lived in Tottenham. And...
Where all the crazy people live.
There's a lot of Polish people in Tottenham. There's a lot of ham in London.
The football team there is called Tottenham Hotspur. Isn't that a weird name for a football team? Tottenham Hotspur.
Hotspur.
I just think
sounds like I don't want to know what it sounds like.
I know what it sounds like.
Sounds like some kind of Thai massage spa wellness center.
Film.
You could put the word film after anything that a person says. But it would actually be very funny, you know.
For about 10 seconds. Anyway, just I never finish my stories.
It's funny, neither do I.
Do you like my cup?
That's because we keep interrupting each other.
Put it in front of your face there, so that...
Thanks.
Do you like the cup? If you're watching on YouTube and we're not looking at you, it's because...
We're looking at them.
Because there's more people there than there is there. So
if you get your friends to watch this and you'll be more than they are, then we will look at you rather than at them.
You can ignore her English mistakes. You be more than they are. Or you be more than they are, me hearties.
I do have pirate ancestors.
Hoist the mainsail. We be travelling on a Dobrodruštvo.
In a good farm.
A good farm. I'll show this over there as well. It's my cup at the website.
This is getting really boring, so I think
it's great. I'm really enjoying myself.
I'm enjoying myself too. I'm not sure people out there are enjoying themselves.
If we're enjoying ourselves, it doesn't matter.
Okay. F you.
Please.
Please, you have to be polite.
Fool. Right.
No.
So to finish my story about the underground.
Give us the story about the underground with the scratchy crotchy line.
That's not the point. Because what did you say? You mixed staple and sticker together. And what did you get? You got
taped.
Something was
taped to my head.
Taped to your head. Well, these crazy people who go around the underground. I've said that before. I know. I'm repeating myself. Who go around the underground with messages taped, like on their body and on their head.
Okay.
Right? Have you ever seen?
No.
Okay. I guarantee you, if you ask anyone who's travelled around London, right, or any city that's got a subway.
About 15 years ago.
There are these crazy people with messages that they tape to their head, and they look like homeless people, right? Or your mother's partner. Yeah.
Stop it. It means they have like long hair and wear the kind of checkered shirt and no shoes.
Nice man.
Yeah.
I don't mean that. I don't mean that homeless people are not nice, but there's a kind of look that they have, right?
Yes.
A kind of crazy stare, not the one that you walk up. Just to be clear.
Oh, okay.
she had this crazy stare. I kept tripping over it.
Are you sure it's a good idea to do this in the morning?
I think it's a great idea.
I'm crying.
Because you're crying. I'm sweating. I'm really hot.
I'm sweating out of my eyes.
Oh, I haven't. Okay. Anyway, so I was on the underground with my Greek Turkish friend.
Naturally.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was Greek or Turkish.
Probably both.
He was confused. I can tell you that much. He didn't know if he was Greek or Turkish. So how could I know? And we did this theatre class together. Anyway, so we're on the underground. I'm like foreigner, like in London. He's like Londoner, right? And and he knows everyone and everything, and I'm the idiot. Okay.
Who comes from the Scottish village?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm the
You're like, what are those cars? All right.
I parked my horse and then go on the underground. So, except there was nowhere to park it. So I took it with me.
You weren't the only one, probably.
You can imagine, like, me on the underground train with my horse. So
with the animal.
So I was pointing out, like, I was asking my friend, like, what is it with these crazy people, right? Because, you get more crazy people in the city than you do anywhere else, and it's a bit of a shock, when you first get there. Yeah, let me just check your mic for a sec. Got an idea that the mic problem might be something there. Okay.
It's working.
if you hear the wind coming through, it's us testing the mics. So, like, what are all these crazy people, with these things? And he said, you don't know. I'm like, no, I
we don't have those in Garmouth.
We don't have them. We have a different kind of, we have a more sane kind of craziness there, and people just get smashed. And anyway, and he's like, well, what do you look at when they're there? What do you? Well, I look at the messages on their head, right?
Yeah. And
it's like weird, random words or some biblical phrase or something like that. And
the end is near.
And he's like, well, yeah, you know why they've got that? I have no idea why they've got that. And he said, watch their hands.
Okay.
Right, and everything is designed to distract you away from their hands and what their hands are doing.
Okay.
And I looked down at this guy's hands, and he was flicking his wrist like this, because this woman next to him had a bag with a zip on it, and he was trying to unzip it and put his hand in it, get the purse out, or if there was a person, I don't know if there was a purse in it or not. But so, see, me being idiot, didn't realize this, right? It's the lessons you learn, right?
I wouldn't realize that.
Yeah, the lessons you learn. Everything is distraction.
Yeah.
Everything is distraction. When someone gets you to look somewhere, it's probably because they don't want you to look somewhere else.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and
it's like politicians, actually.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about personal psychology. It's like when people lose their temper, it's because they don't want to explore a certain topic or certain issue more at that point in time. And so, everything is distraction. Now, that was like one of my first lessons in distraction. Nobody had ever pointed this out to me before. Nobody had ever said this to me. How'd you get to like 20 years old, right? And nobody has pointed out to you the basic principle of distraction.
That's how I got my stuff stolen, actually, in Bratislava. Well, I've spent a lot of time in London, right? And never had any problems with anybody stealing anything, right? And
because you had nothing.
And then I go through Bratislava, and I spend one day in Bratislava, not even that, right? I was just passing through, just going to the airport and back. And on the way back, I looked at a map, and that was a mistake, obviously. Because if you look at the map in Bratislava, it means you're not from there, and it means that you're an easy target, right?
Especially if you're alone.
Yes, and you're a woman, and you're young, and you look confused, like I do almost all the time. And this guy comes over.
Still, nothing has changed.
And this guy comes over. Oh, can I help you? And I was like, yes, I have no idea where I am. And he kind of, moved.
Can I help you?
Moved towards me.
Can I help myself?
And he was like, oh, let me see. We're here, and here's the station. And he looked a bit confused. And I was thinking, oh my God, he's probably not going to help me here very much. So I was like, okay, thank you very much. I closed the map.
Confused people are not helpful. There we go. That's the lesson.
Stepped on the bus and realized that while he was helping me, he was helping himself to my wallet. he managed to unzip my backpack.
What an MF.
And take my wallet out. And I have no idea how or when. And you don't understand how you didn't notice that, right? When that happens.
Oh, well, he did. Great places to steal things are public places where there's a lot of noise and hustle and bustle, and if a person is confused, they're not focused. And I know that sounds obvious. And if you're watching the video, I keep holding my my left ear because the mic keeps
going down.
Keeps going into my mouth.
Does it?
It does.
My mic,
my beard actually. Now that my beard's got longer, it's rubbing up and down on the mic, which is kind of not.
My mic keeps dropping down to my chin because it's so heavy. Because you stripped another mic to it.
Strapped. I strapped.
Sorry.
Strip a mic. I did. I should know.
I stripped the mic and then you strapped it to this.
I stripped one mic down and strapped it to another one, and so that's why. If you're wondering why the ends of the, if you're watching the videos, the ends of the mics have got those big foamy things on. It's because there's two mics.
Two mics.
Secrets.
He is crazy.
There's two mics hidden under there.
He was sitting here with two sets of pliers, ripping apart a set of headphones just to get the mic out.
Yeah, and you were holding the light so that I could see what I was doing.
He had this crazy stare in his eyes.
The one that everyone kept tripping over.
Yes, exactly.
Oh dear, language jokes. How
base.
How base, yes. How backwards is that? Right.
I found an interesting parenting article.
Welcome to Practical Parenting.
Would you like to talk about parenting?
We're 20 minutes in. Welcome to Practical Parenting.
I found an interesting article today, and I would like to know your opinion about it, because I know that you come from a more traditional upbringing when it comes to, rules and discipline and stuff like that, right?
Okay. Stuff like that.
Stuff like that. You were always, I think, you were brought up in a way that was more. How do you say it?
You're right there.
More.
Don't shake the cables. Serious, don't shake the cables. Oh, look at that! You've got your computer here.
I've got my computer here, and I have the mainstream parenting myths.
How unprofessional!
The mainstream parenting myths we need to forget. Here.
Excuse me, the mainstream parenting myths we need to forget.
Yes.
Also,
it is from a blog called "Happiness is Here: Free Childhood."
Happiness is here.
Yes.
3 or free?
Free. F. Free. As in frog.
Free.
Yes.
Well,
and here's a list of myths in parenting that are very,
F is for frog.
Exactly.
G is for me.
That are very generally believed still, right? Even
abracadabra.
By people who don't
believe.
Who think they don't do myths, okay?
Oh, you're talking about things that people do automatically, right?
In parenting.
Because everybody does them.
Things that are generally considered the right thing to do in parenting, very generally.
Considered the right thing to do.
12 mainstream parenting myths we need to forget. First of all, your favorite.
Okay.
Chores.
Hello? Chores.
Hello. Chores or routine teach personal responsibility. And the author,
what's wrong with that?
The author of this article states that forcing people to do chores does not teach them responsibility, but is counterproductive.
Victor, good morning. It's a national holiday today. Don't go to work. Right.
It says, why would you feel personally responsible when someone else is making you do it? Right? In fact, one experiment after another has demonstrated that rewards are, it argues about rewards.
If you didn't make people do stuff, then nobody would do anything, no?
Well, it argues that you should have internal motivation and want to help and want to do stuff for the household or for the family, right? Rather than being forced to it, because if you're forced to it, you have a negative relationship.
Can we stop there?
Yeah.
You should want
Yes.
I have a huge problem with that statement. Right? Because those are two words that I try to refrain from using in my lexicon. I know I use them because it's convenient, but you know, wants are poor replacements for needs, and shoulds don't usually happen. So we've got things that don't usually happen replacing needs.
Let me use different language, okay? The author of this article states that, basically states that children will be more responsible, that chores will make children more responsible if they are internally motivated to do them rather than forced to do them. Right? It says, don't force help. No one wants to be made to help out. That just makes it seem like work is something to be avoided.
There's a difference between forcing help and motivating people to do things. And the concept of, you know, I believe that incentives are essential. We've had this, we talked a little bit about this before, right? Or maybe a lot about this before, but I don't think that anything happens without incentives, either internal or external. Unless you get some benefit from something, you don't really tend to want to do it. Even if it's easy or difficult, it doesn't matter. You need to get some benefit, because if there's no benefit from doing whatever it is that you're doing in the short term or the long term, why the hell are you doing it, right? I mean, it doesn't.
Yes, but there's a big difference between the external motivation and the internal motivation. There's a big difference. If you're going to do something because you get paid for it, or if you're going to do something because you feel it's the right thing to do, because you know inside you that this is something you want to do, or it's the right thing to do, or, you know, is your calling, or whatever you want to call it, right? There is, I'm pretty sure there are studies that
there's no such thing as calling. That's a myth. There's no such thing as a calling, in my opinion.
You think?
It's all mythical, because when people say, so I've heard, like, here's the classic example. You're a teacher. That's wonderful. Why did you choose that profession? Well, it was I felt it was my calling. That doesn't actually mean anything. I mean, who called you? Nobody called you. Right? Well, you know, I had this inner voice inside myself. Well,
no, there is no magical inner voice, but at some point in time you feel that it's something that you want to have, that you feel that it's something that you are good at and that you want to give out to help people.
Yeah, but the idea of the calling, right? the idea of the calling is that would you still do it? Like, if it's a calling, would you still do it if you weren't paid? Well, probably not. Well, then it's not a calling.
If I didn't need money to survive, right?
Which is an impossible... remember I talked about practical situations and impossible situations.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible. We had a teacher, at school, who had an extremely wealthy husband,
Watch the
right?
video.
She was extremely well off, and she did the teaching only because she actually liked to do the teaching. As crazy as it sounds.
Okay, so that's one person in a million, right? I mean, that's kind of...
Well, I'm just telling you that it's not an impossible situation. There are situations where people do stuff that they don't get paid for because they feel they want to do it. For example, I don't know, what do volunteers get out of their work?
Nothing.
Exactly. So if what you said was true, then there would be no such thing as volunteers, right? I mean, obviously they get some kind of internal satisfaction out of it.
Okay, and when I said volunteers don't get anything out of their work, that's not a practical or real statement, because once again, unless you're getting something out of something, you're not going to do it. Unless you're either getting some physical, financial, or psychological reward, you're not going to participate in anything, because you're not going to participate in something where you feel nothing at the end of the day.
Obviously, but what I'm saying, but what you're saying is basically saying what I'm saying, right? That you don't have to have an external motivation to do things. You don't need an external incentive like being paid. You can do something from your internal motivation things don't get a physical or material reward, and still want to do it because you feel it's something you want to do for other people, because you get some kind of internal satisfaction, right? That would be like that would be what I would call calling, right? I mean, I think calling exists. I think calling is when you manage to realize what you're good at, right?
The podcasts.
Manage to realize how you can give back to people, and then pursue it. I mean, if you make money out of it, that's great, because we all need to live, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But I think I think it exists, and it's extremely important for people to stay motivated, to, want to do it. I don't think it's a myth. I think it's extremely difficult to find it, but I don't think it's a myth.
You're talking about internal motivation.
Yeah.
Does it exist? Look, there are people who give away everything that they've got, right? But they tend not to be able to help people very much with things beyond a certain point.
Look, let's leave these crazy, examples, general examples. Let's go back to our home, right? I mean, I have Will sometimes, not very often, coming to me and actually asking me, if he can do something for me. Like if he sees that I'm not feeling well or whatever, sometimes he comes to me and he says, can I help you, or can I bring you anything, or can I cook you anything, or whatever else he can think of, right? And he doesn't do it because
doesn't do that with me.
He doesn't do it because he's being forced to do it, or because I promise him a reward. But he does it because he likes me, right? And he sees that maybe I need help. So I think the author of this article thinks that by modeling helpfulness and responsibility, you can actually teach teach children to participate in running the household without having to force them to do it or bribe them to do it.
Yeah, modeling is another way of presenting ideas to people.
I actually think that rewards have had a negative influence on Will, to a certain extent.
It depends what kind of reward, and it also depends if we're, if the synonyms, if reward and incentive are synonyms or not. Because
too many times I have heard him saying, what do I get if I do this?
I've heard him say that, yeah.
And he says it with things like...
I've often thought myself, what do I get if I do this?
But he does it with things that he doesn't have to ask that. For example, reading, right? He would... Some books, like the comics that you gave him, he would read, because that would feel like a reward to him itself. But sometimes he's like... I'll read this book, right? I'll read Harry Potter. Normally he would read it because he likes that. But
hi, Anna. Welcome to the conversation.
Hi. He would read Harry Potter and he would go like, right, I'll read 20 pages of Harry Potter. What do I get if I do that? And I think there's a wee problem getting in the picture there.
Well, what do I get if I... Yeah, well, okay, yeah, you should be reading just for the sake of reading, right?
Right.
I mean, but you also read because you get some joy from it.
Yes.
Yeah, or you get some information from it, which is useful. So there's a lot of different things happening there.
Yes.
There's a negative thing connected with rewards and incentives for sure. I mean, you can completely miss the point of doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Right? If you incentivize too much or too many things, then they lose. They don't understand that. What's the point of doing it?
I say that to Will sometimes, that you do it just because.
You do it.
You do it just because it's the right thing to do. It's a good thing to do. There's nothing more to be said.
So I think in some situations incentives are good, but all in all, in especially in things like reading or learning, I think that should not be incentivized, because if you do that, then what is the difference between you saying, okay, if you learn this, you can watch a movie, and what is the difference between saying at school, if you learn this, you'll get an A?
Well, you know that there are studies that show that paying people to do a job produces a worse result than if the person does the job for free.
Yes, I have heard about those studies. Actually, so I think you told me about them. So
that's kind of interesting.
So external rewards, it's worth a read.
So as a result, don't ever pay anybody for anything.
I've never read anything by Alfie Kohn, but I would like to maybe explore him.
Do you remember?
We've watched a lecture, I think.
Yeah, I forced you to sit down and watch one of the parenting.
Because I'm beginning to kind of gravitate towards the
keywords, key phrases. Alfie Kohn. He's cool because he's done all the studies. He's got all the stats and the numbers.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gravitating towards his no punishment, no rewards philosophy. I mean, I've been doing no punishments with Will ever since I realized that that's the right thing to do, which must have been around the age of 2, maybe.
Did you punish him before? How did you
punish him? I don't know. I didn't really.
Get him a drink.
You can't really punish a baby because
that's what I'm saying.
I probably didn't punish him before.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you did it, but you weren't doing it, but you weren't aware that you weren't doing it.
I would occasionally, even after the age of 2, not to lie, I would occasionally punish him by, saying, okay, you won't get to play with the tablet for 2 weeks or something, So I did punish him after that, but I was really trying not to. I was especially careful not to punish him. I never punished him if he told me that he's done something wrong. And that, I think, is extremely important if you want your children to trust you and to be always truthful, not to lie. Because if they do a mistake or do something wrong, and they come and tell you about it, then that's to be extremely, that's to be valued like really high, and I don't punish for that because I don't want him to start to hide things from me. When he has a serious problem, I want him to come to me.
Why would he hide things from you?
I'll tell you why. Okay, my parents the opposite. Okay, so anytime I did something wrong. Doesn't matter whether I told them about it or not. Well, not every time, but most of the times I would get punished, right? I would be like, okay, grounded or whatever. So next time I did something wrong, I wouldn't tell them about it because I didn't want to get punished. It's logical, right? So I would end up lying to my children by omission, parents by omission, because I didn't want to face the consequences. I mean, that's logical and natural, okay?
And
even if
terrifying and frightening at the same time.
And even if I had a problem that maybe they wouldn't punish me for and they could help me to solve it, I still wouldn't trust them enough to go to them and tell them about it because I was worried that they might punish me for it or think that I've done something wrong, right? Because I thought that maybe I have done something wrong, right? Maybe I would deserve a punishment from my parents. I don't know, right?
Oh yeah, kids don't know, do they?
So when I had a problem at school, for example, I told you about my childhood trauma at school about not being christened, right?
I can't remember that. I mean,
I lied in my school for about.
Oh, you
lied a very long time, maybe a month.
You had been christened, but you hadn't.
Yes, saying that I have been christened.
Well, a month is not a very long time.
It is when you're a kid and you have to say the lie every single day.
Who cares if you've been christened or not? What's the point? I mean,
well, I went to a Christian school. I went to a Christian school, and I needed to be christened so that I can go on for, what do you call it, the communion, the first communion? Everybody needed to be christened in the classroom, right? And that was
ridiculous rituals.
It was totally ridiculous, and I laugh at it as an adult, but it was extremely stressful when I was a kid, right? And I would go on for very long. To me, it seemed very long when I was a kid. Just lying about it at school and not saying anything at home, and it wasn't a situation that I could have solved in any way as a child, right? So it was very stressful, and I don't want this ever to happen to my children, so therefore I never punish them when they come to me with something, because I want them to come to me with everything they need help with.
You earn the truth by being truthful yourself, both true to yourself and true to others. That's it.
So that was number one. Myth number one. Myth number two is children.
Is that number one?
Yes, that's just number one. There's 12 of them.
I like this. I like this. This is nice to have you
leading the conversation.
Leading the conversation like this. I like this because I'm often leading the conversation, trying to listen and respond, and checking the technical stuff as well. And multitasking doesn't go down too well.
Don't get used to it. So, children want parental control. We often hear, don't know if you hear this, but I hear this all the time.
Okay, now I want to talk about this, but
yeah.
Could you have Facebook open there? Just a quick 30 seconds. Sure. Can you? I want you to check click on my name there. Yeah. Go to my page, and not only is the Facebook stream on the page.
Yeah.
There, but.
You want me to check the...
yeah, I want you to check the YouTube link as well, to check the YouTube stream, just for 2 seconds, just to check that we're going out okay.
No problem.
On both sides.
No problem.
The audio will come through, hopefully.
No, we won't.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, can you do it again, please?
Yeah, sure.
Is the volume up? I want to check out how loud it's coming out on... Okay.
Okay.
Okay, is it coming through? Okay, okay, that's cool. Just to check that people can pick up the audio on that side.
Oh, we look good. We look good on YouTube. Look.
Do we?
Light flooded. We're light flooded from the background because the sun just started shining through the clouds.
You've just created a word.
Do you like it?
Light flooded.
Sorry.
Oh look, she's got light flooded over there. Yeah, you're all saintly, and I'm all sinner, right? And and if you're watching on Facebook, you can hop onto my stream, the Graham William Hendrey stream page, and there's also a YouTube link as well. You can check out how we look on You can compare how we look on Facebook with how we look inside on YouTube, and you can pick the better stream. See, you've got a choice of 2 streams that you can pick us up on, so you can pick up the better stream.
Okay, stop talking about streams. I want to talk about
there's also going to be we're also doing the podcast live at the same time as well, so that will be uploaded to YouTube and available on YouTube and Facebook. There's also, I've added also, I want to get to this, just give me another 15 seconds. Okay. I know. I updated the front page of the website, nsaslovakia.com, and the YouTube stream is now on the front page of my website. So if you go to the front page of my website, right in the middle is the YouTube stream, and you click on that, and any time that we're live, it's visible there.
That's cool.
So
that's cool.
Busy as a buzzing little bee. Right.
Good. So myth number 2, children want parental control, and I often hear this. Children want parents to set limits and to control them so that they feel safe. What do you think about that?
Children want parents to set limits so that they feel safe. The danger is in that children don't get into the habit of regulating themselves. They lean too much on the parents and other older people around about them, and don't get the experience which they need, which is deciding for themselves, is this a good idea or is this not a good idea? Is this safe or is this not safe? And I think children need to begin to do that at a very young age, even though it's very difficult for the parents to take a step back. You see the child climbing over the furniture. I will never forget Will climbing up onto a table and falling off onto the floor in the first flat.
I remember that was my fault.
That we lived in.
Yes.
And
I didn't catch. I was standing right beside him, and he just slipped through my hands. I was standing there,
and
I was like, well, like this, and he just fell.
Like if you're watching the video, like this makes sense if you're catching the podcast.
Sorry. I was standing right beside him. I had my hands ready, and I must have just zoned out for like 1 second, and I didn't catch him at all. It's horrible.
Zoned out. Right.
I mean, he was okay, right? Because he fell on a chair. There was a soft chair right next to the desk. That's how he got to climb on the desk. There's like a soft padded armchair next to it, and he basically fell onto the soft armchair and then slipped onto the floor. So he didn't hurt himself, but it was terrifying.
It's terrifying for me to watch from the other side of the room and not be able to do anything about it. But so it's difficult for parents who want to provide a safe environment for their kids. Yet I have seen a lot of parents whose attention to their children borders on neglect. And yet I've seen the children gain some benefits from that because they've had to make some decisions for themselves. Now, of course, I'm not saying it's all a good thing, and each situation is individual and unique, but if children don't learn to set the rules that they need to set for themselves, and it should be introduced obviously progressively, then there's going to be self-confidence issues later on, like I see with our son, where he often looks at me before he does something to see if
you approve,
if I approve of it, rather than just doing something, and that's not his fault.
No,
right?
it's not. I think that we controlled him. We also I think overprotected him as well the first few years of his life. But it also came out of the environment where we lived, because we lived in a city right in the middle, in the center, right, where you had cars, you had roads, you always had to hold hands to get anywhere, you always had to make sure that, he doesn't get hurt or crash into weird people, or, well, everything that happens in the city, right?
Crash into weird people.
Yes, you had to observe him constantly. When we went to play in the play park, you had to observe him constantly, because he could just run off of the play park and onto the road or something. So he had to be observed 24/7 because of where we lived. Whereas our daughters both had their early childhood experiences connected to the village where we lived, which was a tiny village. We had a big garden, which was fairly safe, and they had the freedom to run around the garden by themselves, to run out onto the street and play on the street by themselves. Well, I watched them, obviously, but I didn't have to interfere at all. I didn't have to hold their hands or drag them off or do anything like that. So I think that Zora and Jasmine are both very self-confident because they had the early childhood experience of independence, which is great. And I feel sorry that I couldn't provide that for Will, but I think the environment of where we lived had something to do with that as well. You can't give children as much freedom when you live in the middle of a city where you have to keep them safe at all times.
I remember when we moved into the house, Will being confused by the concept of the fact that he could go out into the garden whenever he wanted.
Yeah, yeah, I know, it's scary.
He kept asking for permission.
He was four or 5 years old. 4, I think. He was 4 when
Can I go out? Can I go outside? Which is well, of course.
And he was actually scared to go out by himself. He was scared to get out into the garden by himself. He would he needed to see me.
Yeah.
And he would be scared to be in a room by himself. He was crazy. I mean,
we need to work on
the self-confidence
gradually building
thing.
up his self-confidence. We talked about the shop thing before, didn't we? Like sending him to the shop by himself.
Yes, we did. I still didn't do it, but I will. Problem also is with the kids. Another problem that I'm responsible for is the language. Right? I assumed that they would learn the Slovak language just by interacting with Slovak people outside of the home. But that interaction is not sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
They don't speak Slovak, therefore they have problems.
They did spend 6 months in Scotland, though.
Yes, I know. They have problem communicating with their friends, and therefore Will can get into situations, especially when he plays with boys. He doesn't have a problem when he plays with girls, but when he plays with boys, he gets into situations where he gets overrode, or I don't know how to say it, where he would get into the submissive position because he can't speak.
Okay. He can't assert himself.
He can't assert himself because he can't say much more than, hi, what's your name, and let's play hide and seek. Okay. So when other boys start asserting themselves, he has no tools, right, to assert himself. So I didn't see this as a problem when he was younger, but I can see now that it is a problem, and I have to actively teach him or actively make sure that he meets enough children to start speaking Slovak more. Same thing with Zora. She wasn't that shy. Hi. Katka, I have to write you a message. Thank you very much for all the messages that you have sent me about the play area. We actually took a walk.
We were there.
Yes, we took a walk to Suchivrch, and when coming back, we were there, and we had a look through the window. Yes, because obviously it was closed.
Stops the wind getting in.
And it looked lovely. Yes, it looked really nice. I have to send you a message. It would probably be great
so for people who live locally here.
Yes.
Talk about what it is.
Okay, it's the Katka over there. Has a great little play area for kids. I think for ages about 0 to about 3. It's a Montessori styled play area where they can grow, basically, doing all the Montessori hands-on activities, and it looks really, really good for little kids. I'm not sure if we'll be able to attend because of the older kids. I don't think that Will, aged 8, would be, stimulated enough there. But for little kids, it looks awesome. I would definitely go for it. It's called Mudre Sovi for everybody else who's watching.
Mudre Sovi.
Wise Owl? Wise Owls, yes.
Wise Owls.
So if you're watching, check it out. It's worth checking it out.
Check it out.
Yeah.
That's in Banska Bystrica, and it's not far from where we live, and there's parking there, and it's in
there's
places
there's places nearby, like play parks where you can go afterwards with the kids or whatever.
Yeah, and then I think it's organized on a slightly higher level than your average play area.
It's not your average play area. It looks like it's focused on the actual growth, the development of fine motor skills, gross motor skills. My tongue's not working anymore. Gross motor skills and fine motor skills. Have you ever heard of those?
Yes, let's talk about them another day.
Yes.
It gives me time to go and research a bit more about
right.
those
so
things.
yeah, that's cool. Is
it called gross or gross?
GROSS.
I think it's gross.
I think it's gross because you would need
over the word.
You would need the E at the end for the O to say its name.
Yeah, but in the English language, gross has another meaning.
I know. Gross
meaning terrible.
Gross meaning yucky, but
terrible and awful. Yeah.
But gross as in gross.
yucky motor skills.
Gross as in like when you have, for example, when you have income, you've got net and you've got gross, right? No.
Yes, I'm confused about
the same kind of gross.
Right. It just depends which time you come from.
It should be short vowel. It should be O because it doesn't have an E at the end. Will would tell you that. He knows.
It's the cunning linguist. The cunning linguist.
That's me.
There you go.
That's me. But anyway, I wanted to read this to you connected to the second point, right? We constantly ask ourselves in anxiety and pain, what is best for the children? What is right for the children? What should we do for the children? The question is, in effect, is an effect as well as a cause of modern childhood. Until the institution was invented, it would hardly have occurred to anyone to ask the question.
What question?
What can we do for the children? If they had to what?
Hello?
They had
I remember you saying to me, don't read the articles.
Oh.
Don't read
to
the articles
that
from the net.
What was good for children was any different from what was good for everyone else. John Holt, Escape from Childhood.
And I've got that somewhere, no? I've got a couple of John Holt
Yes,
books.
yes. And that coincides with the term...
What do I do Monday?
Which must be a new term because I haven't seen it before. I've only seen it this year, appearing this year.
What's the term?
Which is childism. Have you ever heard the word childism?
Anything with ism at the end is usually semi-ridiculous.
Childism
pointless.
is basically a discrimination of children because of them being children. Childism is basically treating children any different than you would treat adults when it comes to respect, disrespecting children because they're children.
So it's just another word for disrespecting.
Yes, basically.
People.
Yes.
Or disrespecting children.
Yes.
Okay.
So I thought that was an interesting term. Anyhow.
Childism.
So when you
That's childism.
When you instill control over your children, you have to think, would I do this to an adult? You know?
Would I say this to an adult?
Yes, imagine.
Well, that's really interesting because there's the physicality perspective where adults dominate over children because of their physical
size.
The size. The bigger and stronger.
Yes.
And so in any time that's used, it's
childism.
It's force, it's aggression.
Yes.
It's a form of violence basically because you're using your strength against somebody, your physical strength against someone who you know is not strong enough to fight back, which is
every time you say something to your child, basically the rule is imagine saying this to your wife or to your friend or to any other.
Or imagine somebody else saying it to you.
Exactly. Would you say to your wife, go to your room? Right? Or
if she has a room, of course.
Or would you say
sit in the corner?
Yeah, exactly. Would you say would you say to your friend,
face the wall?
Would you say to your friend, I'm not happy with you lying to me, so I'm going to spank your arse?
Okay, here's one, right? I would never say to my friend, I would never say to a friend, could you clean up what's under the kitchen table? But I would say it to the kids.
I would.
You would say it to your friend?
Absolutely. I lived with my friends in a flat, and we would often respectfully talk to each other about mess, about order. You know, we would be like, okay, well, we should
order.
Just imagine you've got roommates, right?
I've got 4 of them. What are you talking about?
You wouldn't tell your high school roommate go and clean up the kitchen or go and hoover. You would say, look, this place is a mess and we need to tidy up. Do you agree? Can we split? You know what we're gonna do? What would you like to do? Okay, I hate washing dishes, so how about you wash the dishes and I hoover, right? I mean, you can talk it out.
Talk it out.
I think you can
talk it out.
I think we can work it out and talk it out with children as well. You don't have to be disrespectful, right? You don't have to treat them like slaves.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying you have to treat them like that. I'm saying I agree.
So
yes, good. Right.
Control is not
You're good
the
in
way
the morning.
to go.
You've got a lot of energy for this.
Respecting children makes them selfish. Another myth.
Respecting children
makes them selfish. Suggestions to consider children's needs.
I can respecting something.
People often think that when you respect your children, that when you're being too nice to your children, right? When you talk to them instead of giving them orders, when you ask them questions instead of giving them orders, when you let them choose, right? That you're going to spoil them and make them selfish, and that you're going to bring up little brats that are going to be disrespectful to everybody else, which is just really.
Okay, take a step back.
Yes.
This respecting children makes them selfish. Is this saying that this is good or bad?
No, that's the myth. That's the myth that needs to be busted.
People actually think that if you respect children, it's bad for them?
Okay.
Do people actually think that?
Yes.
Oh God.
Yes, they do. They do. They do.
Right.
They do think that.
Oh, look at that. You can put that over there.
I can put that over there, but then I'm going to have to reach over there. But I need to put that there because my thighs are getting sweaty.
You're not getting the eye contact with the Facebook group.
Yes, so people do actually think that children are going to grow up into selfish brats if you give them too much freedom, or if you give them respect, basically. If you're not hard on them.
Just go back to the last point. Would you treat adults that way?
I see it.
Do you think that if you respect another adult, is that bad for them? I don't think it is.
Of course it's not. But you wouldn't believe how many people think this. I told you that I spend a lot of time at mother forums and stuff, right? And you wouldn't believe how many people...
Check the podcast is still running.
Yes.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe how many people, when someone suggests, respectful approach towards children, you're going to have about 10 comments saying, yes, that's the best way to bring up a spoiled brat who disrespects their teachers and spits at them and is vulgar and beats up other kids and yada, yada, yada. People just are so scared to respect their children. It's unbelievable.
Wait, I can unpack that a little bit. They're scared to respect people.
Yes, they're scared to respect their children.
Wait. I mean, that's language covering up something, right? When you're scared to respect people, right? Okay? Fear is internal. Okay.
Yes.
Fear is always internal. And respect is the external world. So there's something that doesn't connect.
Okay, they fear...
No, wait a sec, because you're...
I'm sorry, I need to lean on you for a sec now.
Yeah, there's a cable there, though, and you can't put your hand on the cable. Okay? Right? Okay. So... there's a sort of conflict there. I mean, there's an internal conflict and an external conflict, and all that you can control is the internal, not the external. So having a problem with the internal and wanting to control the external is actually an impossibility, right? You can't to want to do that is impossible.
I'm not sure what you're saying at all. You just got me completely confused.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry.
To have an internal problem and to want to project that as an external threat and want to change the external threat is, that's a... Yes,
I know it's not logical.
Well, it's more than not logical. It's actually impossible to change the external in that context.
Yes, it is impossible. It is absolutely impossible. That's why parents always have to. That's why the first step that I always emphasize is to look inside and see what my problem is, right? Because when I have a problem in parenting, it's always my problem. It's always me having problem with something. And often, when you look at yourself in certain parenting situations, there is usually one theme underlying all the problems, and that is fear or anxiety, right? You always realize that you're afraid of something, whether it's the judgment of others or whether it's loss of control, which is this situation, I think. You're always scared of something, basically, when you've got a parenting problem. You have to realize what it is you're scared of, if it's a logical thing to be scared of or not, where it comes from, why am I scared of this? And if you manage to understand yourself a little bit, then you are more capable of looking at the situation objectively and realize what's the right thing to do.
Okay, that's cool. If you can hear bangs and other sounds coming through in the background, the neighbours
are reconstructing their flat downstairs. So downstairs, is it coming from all the way down?
Yeah.
What they're doing up the flat?
Yeah.
And you can hear it everywhere.
Even though we're on the third floor, you can still hear people on the ground floor working.
It's the second floor.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Right, even though we're on the second floor.
Even though we've lived here for a half a year, still doesn't remember.
Do you have to press 3 on the lift to get here? No.
2. It's 2.
I don't never take the lift. I always walk up the stairs.
Jasmine will tell you. Jasmine always presses number 2.
I guess because she's not tall enough to press number 3, though. Anyway.
Now, these little points are written in a slightly suggestive manner. Okay. Suggestive. But it, you know, it kind of gives you the point. So, number 4 is forcing manners creates thankful children.
Forcing manners creates. This is the myth.
Yes, this is the myth.
It's that children will be thankful if you force them to behave in a certain way.
If you force them to say thank you and please and all those things.
Let me give you a very simple equation.
Makes them thankful. Yes.
Force equals failure.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Force equals failure. It's an inability to convince or persuade or present a good, reasonable, or logical argument.
Force always breeds resentment in every situation. Every situation somebody forces you to do something,
there's a long-term issue.
The reaction is resentment. You don't want to do it, even if it's a good thing, even if it's something you love, right? If you're forced, you create negative relationship and you don't want to do it. And you most certainly, just because somebody forces you to say thank you, you most certainly don't feel thankful for that, right? If you felt thankful, you would actually say it by yourself, right? It's like at school. I remember at school we had this math teacher, and she was really great, and she was actually funny, and she was doing this as a part of fun, right? And she would go to the boys. She didn't usually do it to girls, but when boys were being silly, she would go to the boy and she would whack them over the head with a book, right?
Yeah, because she smacked in the face.
It was like.
I bet the boys were really small. How old were they?
No, that was at the high school. That was like 17.
But it was done in a joking way.
Yes, it was done in a joking manner.
Okay, I get it.
Manner, and she was always very joking. We all loved her. Okay, but and she would always say, when she did it, she would always say thank you.
Say thank you.
Because I do this for your own good, right?
Say thank you.
And they would always laugh and say thank you. But she did it in a joking manner. But I know people who actually mean it in situations like this, right? Like. Is
that when people say, like, it hurts me more than it hurts you?
Yes, you do something to the kid that the kid doesn't want, and then you make them say thank you because it's for their own good, right?
Okay.
And it's just like the top of perversion in this situation for me. It's like, right. Which takes me to something.
I'm being bad to you, but it's really me being good to you. I mean, that's just.
You just don't realize it.
You're attempting to persuade yourself that you know, up is down, left is right.
This whole notion of this whole concept of doing something that the kids don't want you to do to them and persuading it's for their own good gives you the perfect basis for abusive relationships in the adulthood, right? Perfect basis, because all the abusers in adult relationships always claim that it's for the good of the victim, right? The husband beats his wife and says it's for your own good.
Hits.
I said beats.
Beats. Yes. Oh, right, sorry.
Right.
Hits, beats, sorry.
Whatever.
I heard bites. Oh my God.
No, maybe, I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's the point. I mean, that's you're giving the child a perfect basis for becoming a victim in an abusive relationship when they are older. If the kid doesn't want you to do it, don't freaking do it, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Force equals failure.
I mean, I can imagine if it's like taking antibiotics when the child is deadly ill, then of course, yes, I would use the force then because it's going to save his life.
Well, that's knowledge and experience as a trump card in that kind of situation, because adults have more experience of certain situations and they have to use that experience wisely.
But you have to use discernment, right? You have to realize when is it about the child's safety and when is it just about my freaking ego.
Keywords, discernment, keyword. That's a keyword that is not emphasized enough in the educational growth and learning processes. Discernment.
So telling kids to say thank you every time that they should say thank you does not mean they're actually going to be grateful for whatever they have just received. They're just going to learn to say something that is socially accepted, but they're not going to feel grateful.
Isn't that one of the prayers? Grateful for receiving something, and it's kind of forced on people that they ought to feel grateful, and it's not really a true emotional state.
I don't know, but rather than that, I would suggest
grateful for what we are about to receive, but they just say they're not.
It's the little formula that you say before you start eating, right?
Oh, so it's the
thank you, Lord, for these things. Blah 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 blah.
What do you call that?
But maybe they are grateful.
The prayer at dinner,
or whatever, the lunch prayer, something like that.
Something. Yeah.
So.
I guess in that situation, it might be more relevant or pertinent, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's a better idea to learn them to. I would say train them, learn them, teach them gratefulness, to talk about the actual gratefulness rather than just saying the words, right?
Yes, I agree.
I told you about this yesterday, I think. I'm not sure whether you were listening because you were fiddling with cables, but it's amazing.
Fiddling.
It's amazing how Jasmine, 2.5-year-old, expresses her gratefulness in situations where, for example, Will never did, right? Where I did something to Will that he didn't like, he would just complain about it, right? But Jasmine, for example, yesterday she had a sore bum because she pooped in her nappy. She didn't tell me about it, and I haven't noticed. And then I changed her nappy. She was a bit red, right, and sore. And I said, well, we'll put cream on it, right?
Okay.
And that situation, Will at that age would probably run away from me, and if I did it, he would probably just be angry with me, right?
Okay.
But Jasmine let me do it, even though she didn't like it, and then she would say thank you. All by herself, right? She does things like when she has a splinter and I need to take it out, Will would scream his head off and run away. And when I do it to her, she always says thank you, even though it hurt, as if she knew that I did something that was really unpleasant for her own good, and I don't even have to tell her that. So she kind of naturally understands this, and she thanks me for things that children usually don't thank you for, like brushing her hair, or
That's nice.
Or washing her bum.
It's nice to be thanked for the
it's nice to be thanked, especially when you don't tell her to thank you for anything, right?
And don't forget to say thank you.
She just does it naturally. She naturally thanks me for changing her nappy or for putting her jumper on, or just things like that. It's really cool. Okay,
super cool. We've got time to do maybe one or two more. One or two more. How many are there? 12. We can do a part 1 today. We can do a part 2 tomorrow.
Okay, this is a great one, though. This is a great one. Children, and you hear this all the time, especially when you don't have kids in schools. Right. Children need rules and structure because one day they will have a job.
The problem with that is that rules and structure don't create work, right?
That's one thing.
They don't create jobs. The other thing is that discipline, real discipline, is personalized discipline. It comes from you yourself. So rules are usually externally created. That's why a lot of people are advised to have their own social code or moral code or personal philosophy that they write down and that they follow and that they stick to. Because you need something permanent to hold on to. You do need something permanent to hold on to. Otherwise, you will drift. You will be subject to social influences and cultural influences that might not be what you need. So
but
we do need personal rules. We know what's. Usually only we know what's best for ourselves, even though that means that we need to ask other people for advice and help as well. It doesn't mean ignoring that. So it's definitely not, because you will have a future job, that's definitely not the right kind of motivation for having external structures and rules imposed on your life.
Exactly. You know, people often use this in the connection of homeschooling, for example, right?
Okay.
For example, when I talk to a friend before, I would say, well, the kids get up whenever they want to get up, right? I let them sleep until, say, 9, 9:30 o'clock, and they get up slowly, and they do a thing, and if they want to work, we work, and if they want to write something, we write something, and we kind of, you know, don't force it. They naturally want to learn things, right? If they're interested in something, we watch a video about it, or, you know, explore it further, just like homeschoolers do, right?
Okay.
And this friend would come back to me, but that's not, they don't have any structure. That's not teaching them, you know, what are they going to do when one day they must have a job, and suddenly they will have to get up early in the morning, and they will need to have some kind of routine, and they will be forced to do things, you know. They won't have the choice to get up when they want and do what they want. What are you going to do then? So I think this point is mostly about this kind of reaction of people to you not having exact routines, right? Go to sleep at 7, wake up at 6, and have an exact routine. Do this. Go to kindergarten at 8. So they're basically teaching children the 9 to 5 job routine ever since they are 3 years old. Okay.
Well,
the school is the same process. It's the same thing. You're training workers.
Well, you're also training them to expect that these things are going to be automatically there in the future, and they might or might not be. I mean, it's a very long road to go through in life. So I think you have to be flexible and adaptable.
You don't know what jobs there are going to be in the future.
Well, yeah, and what about
no idea.
Well, what about if you decide you don't want to be a worker, so you want to be an entrepreneur, or you want to be a business leader, or you want to be someone who works in a non-traditional sense? How's that going to help somebody who's, you know, doing a night shift, for example, right? I mean, it's assuming that there's only one kind of job for one kind of person, and you know, the truth is there are a billion different kinds of jobs, from, you know, lifeguard at the swimming pool to you know, forester in the forest, to airplane pilot, to weaver and knitter. I know. Etc.
If my grandfather, right, asked me, what's your job? And I told him that my job is to sit in front of a camera and talk to people through the internet, he would be like, what?
That's a job?
What's an internet? Right? Because, well, my grandfather is not with us anymore, but I remember when I was a kid, he used to look at my brother's computer, this really old big box with the, you know, the classic huge monitor thing, and my brother would play his silly little games like the Dayna, whatever it was called, the Pac-Man or whatever, and my grandfather would look at it and was like, how's that moving? You know, he was like, are you making it move in the television? You know, he's really confused. So we are going to be like that in 20 years when our children start having their jobs.
When all the VR tech.
We'll have no idea what the hell they're doing or how they're doing it, probably, because we're probably going to be drooling, and, you know, maybe not in 20 years yet, but hopefully a little bit later, anyhow.
There'll be people sitting in offices on one side of the world that are flying planes on the other side of the world, and that already exists.
And we'll be like,
that's kind of crazy.
This is your job? What? Right? So we don't know what's there. So what's the point in training them for a system that worked 100 years ago? Right?
That's a good. Well, yeah, that's a good point as well, because that comes into the need to be adaptable and to realize that we don't know which markets are going to be available or are going to be around to work in the next 20 years, and how do you know that your child is not going to create a market for themselves within what they do? A lot of people they build markets out of their own personalities, right? They're the skills that they pick up as they travel through life, and the idea that you can have a profession for life is gone is gone now, because the market's changed so quickly that most people are working in a profession 3 to 5 years. They're not spending their entire lives doing...
To be flexible now.
Doing one thing. Now, you can spend your life doing one thing, but you just have to be more adaptable to change. There's more people traveling to more places for work now, and it's something that you have to expect the unexpected. There's what you can be certain about, and then there's uncertainty. So
that's why it's always a good thing to train the children in critical thinking rather than in some nonsensical routines which may or may not apply in their life later on, right?
Okay.
Last point for today is basically the same thing. We already covered it.
If we've already kind of covered it, let's save it for tomorrow and review it, okay? Because we've been online for hour 20 minutes.
Have we?
And there's a clock there.
All right, the time just flew today.
Well, that's because you were.
That's because it's the morning and it's not.
Putting a lot of energy into it. I've got a feeling there's going to be a lot more banging. There's going to be the sound of drills and other things. And
I'm looking forward to that.
Other things going on around about. And I was thinking, why are they doing it on a Saturday? And then I realised it's Friday. It's Friday.
They will be doing it on Saturday.
It's a national holiday, though. So.
The point is, darling, when are they supposed to do it? When they're at work during the work days?
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Especially when they do it by themselves. Like, they can only do it at the weekends.
Yeah, I get it. They've got to work on things like that, right? So with all the work going on in the background and stuff, I think we've done pretty well today, so we covered a lot of stuff. Remember, if you want to get in touch with us, you can leave us a note on Facebook. Leave us some questions. We'll deal with it on Facebook. If you catch up with the podcast, leave us a note under the podcast. We'll read that. If you find us on YouTube, on the YouTube stream, leave a note for us. Tell us what you think. Chime in with your opinion. Leave us some articles that we can look at, and we'll deal with those topics and subjects. There's also www.nsa-slovakia.com. That's a site with lots of links to a lot of work that we've done in the past, and there's a Pinterest page, and I don't know what else. There's
my 21st Century Mum page, website, and group on Facebook.
Charlie's in the house. Charlie's in the house.
Is he?
Check it out.
Oh.
Check it. Chocolate factory.
Charlie and his chocolate factory.
Charlie and the chocolate factory.
It always takes a while, fixing. Thomas is online. Hi,
yes. Thomas. A quick ad for them. Let's do a quick ad for them. The chocolate, Lyra Chocolate.
Chocolate from Nitrizer.
I'll tell you a little story about Lyra Chocolate. I'll tell you a 30-second story about Lyra Chocolate, right? They were at a international competition in I think it was Hungary, right? For chocolate, and they got a silver award. They got a second prize, and the reason why they didn't get a first prize was because all of their chocolate balls, they all got eaten, of course, but their chocolate balls were not all exactly the same size.
No.
And the problem was that there's nuts inside.
Yes.
And the nuts are not all the same size.
Well, of course.
So they marked the company down in the competition.
What?
Because
their balls were not the same size.
Because under European Union regulations, the chocolates all have to be exactly the same, but the nuts are not all the same. So you can't make the chocolate exactly the same.
Serious?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
completely crazy. The European Union is absolutely crazy. It's like in the supermarkets where all the apples.
Wait for the straight bananas. A couple of years they'll have straight bananas. Right. And
this kind of curvature is not allowed.
Perfectly. Yeah, exactly. They can have these perfectly round apples and so on.
Sad. It's sad. Their chocolate is so super, super good.
Yeah,
I've got 30 seconds for it. He got chocolate from him, brought it home, and didn't have any of it because I ate it all in one day.
Please, can we have some more? That's what we're saying. Please, can we have some more chocolate? We really like it. I'm meeting him next week, so we'll see what happens.
No, it's good. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, right. So that's it. That's it for practical parenting today. keep in touch with us, please. It's an absolute pleasure to get to present information. We did this in the morning today. We did this in the morning instead of the evening, and I think it's better to do it in the morning.
Yes.
Yes. I'll tell you
Yes.
what's it's different. Okay, it's not better. It's just different because in the evening you got the kids running around and we're tired, and in the morning the kids are still in bed right now. So they're getting some sleep, and that's kind of cool. We got a bit of space,
cool,
but we still have to deal with the workers in the background. So it's all kind of insane.
And also, we're not half asleep. I'm half asleep in the evening. I just don't have the energy, and I can't. Yeah. In the evening, all I can think of is when will I sit down on that sofa and watch Hamish.
Watch Hamish. Yes. Okay. Quite right.
Okay, people. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely day, or have a good night if you're in America. Or
good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night.
Yes.
Whatever. Okay. I'm going to shut all these systems down. So first of all,
shut down that.
We're going to shut down
Facebook.
Thank you very much for checking us out on what. I should shut down the
podcast.
Okay. Shut down the podcast then. So thank you very much for checking us out on the podcast. The podcast is saying bye-bye right now. Say bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much for checking us out on Facebook. Say bye on Facebook.
I'm going to sneeze.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And YouTube, guys.
Bye, YouTube, guys. Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much for checking us out. Remember that there's a chat on YouTube as well that you can join in with. You can leave questions and comments, and you can share. Please share. Please share the information as well. Where does it finish? It finishes there. I click stop.